All right, up next we got Headsplitter by Getter. And thanks to Sick Chick for suggesting it. Let's check it out.
Record play and get your head knocking. Check the resume. Let the record play and get your head knocking.
I fucking love that scene where he opens up the umbrella and the hamburgers are falling down and he just cracks a smile with the fucking shades. I love that shit. What a flex. That's my favorite scene in that whole video. And I've seen that video, God, like a few hundred times for sure.
Yeah, whoever made that video is both from a editing standpoint gifted and from a visual standpoint like has a good eye. There was a lot of really cool effects in there, and also just it looked different, you know. It's got a very unique style to it. Does anyone know, did the Pizza Slime guys like collab on that? Because I swear to God, like that looks like all the Pizza Slime merch and like aesthetic. But whatever it was, fucking catchy tune. I think the thing that Getter does incredibly well, which made like his like harder dubstep stuff for a while just incredible, is that his sense of rhythm that like makes you bounce and like bang your head is just incredible. Like it doesn't take a lot. Like that song's not complicated, but like the rhythm of it is just so catchy and like makes you want to like dance back and forth and front to back. And it's like a pretty, like I would call that like hybrid trap. It's not really a dubstep tune because it's basically just one big old sub note at the bottom, and that bass sound doesn't even have like much below like 200 hertz. It's pretty much a lead. Um, it, but it doesn't need anything else. Like that one sound, that one rhythm keeps the whole song going.
Yeah, that was a jam for sure. I really dug like how we used, just like you were talking about earlier, how we used the different registers to have different sounds playing at the same time. Like in that second drop, he just like had on the up down, really keeping that head bob alive, that like bump, 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 bump. Like just that like super wide. And he also used the space really well. Like that mid bass in the lower register was super wide, and then he had that super like high pitched do 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 that lead going on front and center, and so they could really easily coexist. Like they were both really helping provide, like they had a different rhythm, they had a different tone, they had a different space in the stereo image, they had a different register. And because he separated them in all these different ways, it was really easy to enjoy and understand both of those pieces that were playing simultaneously for that whole drop. And then he would come in like with a bigger womp and just cut each of those off for just a second and then bring them right back seamlessly. And you don't even think about them being gone, because it's as if, a bigger thing had just come in front of them. Like you don't think when I put my hand there that my face is gone. It's just, you just assume that it's still there. And like the listener will just assume that that other sound is still there in the background. But for composition's sake, just checkerboard it out of the way. Just cut it, delete it. Nobody's going to miss it because that big womp came in front of everything.
That's something that I actually have just recently had to do on a track where there was like a vocal that was like a really quick line, but I needed that line in the song. And like right after that, I just had a bass that like, it wasn't a womp, but it was like, wah, like right after that vocal. And then all of a sudden, like, oh shit, like it doesn't feel abrupt anymore because that other thing comes in and completely like takes the focus to a different place and solve the issue completely.
Yeah, that's where like impacts and downlifters and cymbal crashes and stuff like that can just be such an easy solution for something. We're like, oh, this transition between that element and this element doesn't quite feel right, or that section and this section, but you put one thing that goes and then rings out, and then the listener doesn't think twice. It was like I paid attention to that thing for a split second, and then when it cleared out of the way, there was a new thing happening for me to pay attention to, and I didn't notice any gap.
Yeah. And specifically for that, something that I've found to really enjoy over the years is like just like a distorted white noise, like one beat of that, like before you go back into the other thing, just like, and then back into the other rhythm. Like it's so simple, but it's such a pattern disconnect because it's atonal and it's like something that normally is like static or like distracts you. And so it's just like a really easy way to like reset whatever is happening there. So I highly suggest people try that as well.
Man, I just want to bring up too, and I think this is the point that Sick Chick is talking about here, but one of my absolute favorite things about this track is the way that the basses are mixed in. And he doesn't go for like the classic sort of sound of like nowadays or even a couple of years ago when how dubstep was mixed. It's like everybody's aiming for a lot of high end, very compressed mids, lots of low end. Whereas he takes a sort of different approach to these basses where they're like very wet with the spatial elements, which sort of takes them back a notch in the mix. And they don't sound as in your face. They sound more like just wet and slimy. But that like step back in terms of proximity, the way the basses are mixed, really helps those drums cut through, really makes that 808 sound massive. And then when you hear that track at a club or a festival, it just like that main bass like just envelops you and just sounds like very wet. I don't know. I just think it's a really interesting creative choice he did for that track. And it's an element that really made the track unique and gave it its own flavor relative to, every other track in in that time. And even nowadays, I feel like that track still holds up so well. And like back, what was that, like a couple years ago when I heard that, I knew that was going to be one that stood the test of time because it was very left field.
Yeah.
Mix wise and approach wise from what everybody else was doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm a big
and Sick
fan of
Chick,
that.
you should check out the weekly download on the Far Away Rec.
Mm.
That I think will give you a bit more insight into how to play with that sense of depth.
Yeah, and the way that he explains it in that too, just like completely like demystifies like how to make something seem like it's really close, how to make something seem like it's really far away. And then that Far Away rack, I probably have 2 or 3 of those in every song that I make ever. It is like,
Yeah,
you'll never use just an auto filter again.
yeah, for real.
Give it just a quick, that 30-second elevator pitch version of what the Far Away Rack is doing for those who don't have the weekly download. But if you don't, go get it. Best $20 you'll ever spend. ill.Gates' entire teaching history in an archive for you.
Yeah. So the Far Away,
go for it.
The basic concept of like things that sound close. There's very little reverb or no reverb. They have a lot of low end and high end, and there's like no delay or anything like that, right? So like if I get right up close to the mic, you probably got more lows and highs with that. And if I back up way back here, you're probably getting more just the mids and maybe some of the more of the room reverb. And so that's the basic concept of like how you want to approach it. And so the Far Away rack leverages those principles, and it basically combines a high pass and a low pass with a reverb, and I like to throw a delay on there too. So as you macro the high pass, the low pass, the reverb, and the delay to this one knob, where as you turn it, it narrows the band, it adds more reverb, and it adds more delay, and therefore it like all at once feels like it's moving away from you. And then the vice versa. It's the best thing to bring in a lead sound or a bass or transition some very loud element into your song, because it's the most pro sounding way to transition an element in or out.
Yeah, and if you've seen the episode where we talk about the mix cube, it's how you sort of unlock that third dimension of the mix cube. If you can get down these far away concepts, then you can start to create proximity and depth in your mixes, and that combined with panning and leveling is going to give you absolute full control of placing your elements in a 3D space. That's like, if there's one mix thing you need to know and to never watch a tutorial on again, actually no, it's second to leveling, always second to leveling. But Far Away Rack is just one of those concepts. Like if there's one thing you need to know about mixing, that's definitely up there, and that will get you so much closer to the results that you're looking for than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the important thing to remember is that every piece of music you compose has to go through a human brain to be interpreted. So think about how human brains interpret noise in different ways and use those psychoacoustic principles to write your music. Like the human brain, even if you had your eyes closed when Ripken got closer to and farther from the mic, your brain would have completely understood without thinking for a second that he was getting closer to and further from the mic. You just understand that intrinsically because of how our brains work. We know when you can hear all of the high frequency of somebody's voice, they're closer to your ear. And the further away they get, the more mids you hear and the more whatever reverb of the space you're going to hear in the mix. It's like that dry wet knob of the reverb. Like you're hearing, if it's all the way at 0, completely dry, you're only hearing him right here in your ear, ASMR style. But the further away it gets, you're just going to hear more of that reverb. That's why you put a reverb and turn up the wet dry. It feels like it's getting further away all by itself. But then, putting that whole Far Away rack together where you're also really taking away those highs and lows, and, you put some delays on it, that kind of amplifies the atmospheric, reverb of the room. Like it feels like you're getting some slapbacks on the reverb. It's a really helpful concept, and it's really simple when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I like it. What's up, humans? Yo, thanks so much for watching our reaction video. I'm Luke Rain from the Human Music Podcast. Please hit that subscribe, hit that like, comment. Let us know what videos you want to see us do in the future, or let us know what you thought of our breakdown of this one. And remember, we've got a whole podcast where we break down all sorts of producer and music related content. So tune in to the channel or check us out at thehumanmusicpodcast.com. All right. Peace out, humans, and peace among worlds.